The only reason I ever got in that position is because Jimmy Crockett finally said, who had never had any voice, his father did, but like I thought they thought that when his father died, who I never had the pleasure of meeting, he died a week before I started in the Carolinas, that Jimmy would just go and roll over. No, he got George Scott. They brought in Wahoo. They got Jardine. They got Valentine. They brought in a crew, and they went from being a tag team territory to us where they were featuring the single stars. And then Jimmy started getting so big that he finally had a voice. And he said, "Boys, hey, you're going to give Flair a try, or we're going, or you know, I've never said this to a lot of people, but it was going to be me or Dibiase. And I can assure you, if we ever have Ted, who's a good friend of both of ours on this show, when Dibiase didn't get the title, he went to New York. If he'd had the choice, I can tell you right now, knowing Ted Dibiase, he would have rather been the NWA champion and would have never left and gone to New York and been $1 million man. But it was hard. And then of course, then after you get it, you wonder why the hell you want it when you don't go home for 6-7 months at a time. And not every town in Chicago, Greensboro, Atlanta, Miami. I mean, I hate to keep going back to Kansas, but that week in the Kansas territory, I said I was going to Russia for the week.
Well, what made them pick you over Teddy? I mean, did you ever hear the reasoning? Who supported you? Who supported Teddy? How did that happen?
I think the difference was that I went to Puerto Rico a lot for Cologne, Carlos, and Carlos had a vote. I'll give you an example of a conversation. Ricky, my boy, this is Jim Barnett. Ricky, my boy, I see you have a day off, huh?
My boy.
Yeah, my boy. I see you have a day off on January. I think you're off Christmas Day. I don't know how that happened, but Carlos would like you for Three Kings Day, which is Christmas Day in Puerto Rico. And I went, it's my only day off. He said, Ricky, you know, Carlos has he has a vote. He's very influential with the boys. So what do? Go home and get an argument about all the stuff that I've been doing, which I haven't been doing because if nobody knew about it then, only I knew about it. It was always suspicion, but or go to Puerto Rico and lay in the sun for 2 days. So,
well, not a hard choice, and maybe it got you the world championship up.
It probably did. I mean, I just couldn't. Barnett could always tell me they have a vote. You don't want to piss off the Funks. You don't want to piss off Bob Geiger. I know you don't like to go in there, but I'm sorry there was only 200 people there. And if you asked you, if they want you to wrestle an hour with Bob Brown and Rufus Jones, you have to do it. Okay. However, try that. I wrestled Bob Brown one time. The ring didn't show up. We put down a high school wrestling mat in front of about 130 people for an hour.
I'm sorry, that's not on YouTube.
Yeah. Hey, I would pay someone to take it off YouTube. It was bad.
Now, before we move on from Wahoo, how great was the Mid-Atlantic territory in the late 70s through the mid 80s when it went national with Jim Crockett Promotions?
That's a great picture of the Chief there.
When Roddy was there, I mean, just so many great Steamboat. I mean, the lineup was unbelievable. And like you said,
Jake Roberts, the Briscoes, Dick Slater, everybody.
And like you said, that transformed the promotion. I mean, you were a big part of that, but it was a group effort, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was part of it, but to this day, I'm lucky to be part of these things. I mean, you look at the guys that were there. I look at the lineup. You had the Briscoes, Jack and Jerry, right? Because Jack was no longer the champion at that time. I think it was Terry or Harley. But then you got Jake Roberts, Dick Slater, Piper, myself, Greg Valentine, Paul Jones, Rufus R. Jones. I mean, so much depth. And then a couple of years later, we had the Road Warriors. I mean, to this day, I'll say it, if Jimmy had just stayed east of the Mississippi, they possibly still could be in business.
I think so too. I think he just went a bit too far, and
Yeah,
he took his battle to some cities where he just wasn't going to win,
well,
no matter what.
Well, the product was good enough, but not enough people saw it on TV because the penetration or the what's the word they use now? There was not enough saturation of TBS on the West Coast.
Right.
Yeah,
TBS
we sold out. We sold out the first time we went, but if you can't see the show, the first time's out of curiosity, even though they had a great show, but we started out as an example in a forum, 16,000, 14,000, 12,000, 10,000, like that, because no matter how good the product was, if you can't see it on TV, what are you going to do?
Now,